Hey everybody, welcome back to my dining room for another session of Video Scribal. Glad you could all join us again. It is snowing like a snowy thing that snows outside here. Hopefully some of you have sunnier weather and it's April, so the snow will go away. But here we are, April. Hello. Um, so today's class demo, whatever we're calling these, is on snow, all the snow, um, on the Morgan Black Hours, which is one of 7 manuscripts. Oh, hi, Molly! Hooray! 7 manuscripts that are surviving that are done on black vellum. Which is pretty cool. This one is in the Morgan Library, which is why it's called the Morgan Black Hours. It's from 1475-ish, and it's pretty cool. Blue background, and if we were doing a letter part, the versals they all have a green background, and then it's all gold work for the detail. It's a really great manuscript to work from if you need something quick, because it's only 2 colors. We're only using 2 different tubes of paint, or 3 if you have a blue that needs a little bit of white shading in with it, and gold. And the black background is great because it takes care of all your darks. So what I've got is the cerulean blue, which is pretty close to the lovely background color of the source, and our usual wonderful imitation gold or fine tech, if that's what you prefer. So yeah, it's a really fun manuscript to work from because it's like 500 pages long. So there's no shortage of source material. You can take bits from different pages and put them all together. Different creatures. There's like an accordion-headed man on one of them. It's very strange. But the one I picked for tonight just has this little bird in it, and some fruit, and some flowers, and some acanthus leaves, so we get a little bit of everything right at the same time. Hopefully everybody was able to get something on their paper. Doing the black hours is kind of interesting because you can't use a light table because stuff doesn't really come through the dark paper. Paper is another thing. So I've got 2 different kinds. I did a sample piece on a pad I got from John Neal, which is a fairly thin, lightweight paper. It is, we'll get that under there so we can see that. And it worked really well. We're working with a slightly less wet paint, just because of the nature of the black paper. It tends to suck up paint really quick. So that's fun. This one tonight is on black Bristol, which I think I also got from John Neal, but Amazon has it. And it's heavier than the regular Strathmore. It's like 130 pound. I think our Strathmore is either 100 or 90 pounds, so that it's a lot stiffer paper. Canson is another one that you can find in most art stores that does a nice smooth black paper. In period, they dyed it with, one website says carbon, which didn't make any sense to me, and then Wikipedia I found, they actually dyed the vellum with iron gall ink. So you could totally do that if you wanted to make your own black paper. You just need an ink that is waterproof, because if you try and paint over a water-soluble ink with gouache, it's going to be a muddy mess. So something like an iron gall or an India, just do a sample piece first and make sure your paint will actually stick to it. because we wouldn't want everything to flake away. So, assuming you've got your piece drawn out, it's easier to see number 2 pencil on the black paper than one would expect. So I'm going to use the cerulean here. If you have to mix your own, you want to aim for a color kind of, no, there we go. Pretty close to like a medium blue, and we'll put some water in here. This is ultramarine light with white that I've had mixed for quite a while. And I honestly can't remember how much white I put in with the little blob of ultramarine, but start with not very much and add as you need to. So I'll just mix a little bit of that and do a sample up here. Because you want it light, but not too light for your mix. Put that away. And for the cerulean, this is kind of a fun paint, because like the geranium red from last week that I love so much, it is slightly translucent when you mix it up. So again, for this particular piece, I'm not going to mix it quite as wet as I would regular Bristol, and I need more than that, so we'll get a little bit more. As the black paper, like I said, does tend to really suck up the paint. It's fascinating. So I'll get that mixed to slightly less liquidy than heavy cream. And there's kind of the sample color there. The cerulean's a lot brighter than your ultramarine light. Something like, if you had a pure blue or a cyan, those colors would also work. Mixing a little bit of white with peacock actually worked really well for me the other night. Peacock by itself is almost entirely translucent. When I tried it just straight on the black paper, all we could see was black. So definitely need a little bit of white. Hello, Emmeline. Welcome. Emmeline, I think are you from Antir? Way on the other end of the country. Hopefully it's not snowing there like it is here. Yay. So yeah, like last time, I like this with pieces that have straight borders, of course. I like to use my little ruling pen tool so we get a nice straight edge. Mix that up a little bit and load the pen. Get the ruler in here. And get the edge in. And put the ruler right on the paint that you just put down. Okay, we made it without a mess. Again, a cork-backed ruler is what you want for this. Because if you don't have a gap between the metal and the page, the paint or ink or whatever it is you have loaded into your ruling pen will wick under the ruler and make a giant mess. There's that, and you can hopefully see already the beautiful blue that is showing up so nicely against the black here. I love this. Oh, Avocal, so north into Canada. Yay. Well, welcome to a dining room in Maine. So the ruling pen, I don't even know where I got that one. I think it came from Twig's drafting kit that he had in college, and it's mine now. Um, but John Neal has these, and Amazon has them for about $3, but don't buy the $3 ones from Amazon because they suck. It's a two pieces of metal pointed, and this is a tensioner here that you can adjust. I'm not going to because I need it for later. But you can adjust it to get a narrower or a wider line. And it's a wonderful little tool for making perfectly straight lines with a ruler. You can also, use it to just draw with if you want to do freehand. They also make a compass version. So you've got the point on one end and the ruling pen on the other, and you can draw lovely, perfect little circles if you can get it to work right. I have lousy luck with those. But this one is one of my favorite little tools. And again, it just makes the edges nice and neat, so we can have a bit of a bumper for the rest of the paint. So that's all mixed now. And now it's a matter of filling in the background. Again, with the black paper, you're sort of doing it almost in a negative from a regular scroll on white or light background, because we're not actually going to be filling in very much of the shapes. So I think I just lost a foot on my drawing table. Neat. So starting at the top, and again, your paint is not necessarily as wet as usual, because for some reason the black paper just sucks in all the pigment it can, and you'll go through a lot more paint than you may on a regular scroll. On this style, again, we're outlining, everything's going to be outlined in gold. We're using gold paint in period. All it says on the websites, and even the Morgan Library, just says gold pigment. So whether that was mosaic gold, which is a period fake gold, I think it's what did we decide it was? It's made with tin. I can't remember what the other material is in there, but it looks like gold, but it's not gold. Fool's gold. So just kind of move this in here, move it around. On the stems, if you can avoid them, do, because it's going to make outlining easier. But if you go over them a bit, it's not a huge issue. Because everything will just kind of fill in. So Gwyn had asked about brushes and what I keep in my arsenal. What I'm using to fill in the background here is a number 2 round. And it's a Princeton Heritage brand. I think I got it at Michael's. So it's just as long as it's something with a nice point, you can use it for a whole scroll. That's what I use a lot for backgrounds. and larger areas. If it's a wider area of just straight paint, I'll go up to like a size 4 round, which is a little bit larger, holds a little bit more paint. But again, as long as it's got a nice point, I'm happy with it. Next down, I've got 2 round, 1 0. I don't use those as often. 20-aught liners, a 20/0 lining brush, also round, is another commonly used. I probably have a half a dozen of those for various things. Some people like script liners. They're a little bit longer bristled, so they'll add, they can hold a little bit more paint than just the regular liner brush. For finishing this piece, I have a little 30-0 monogram. Oh no, this is a round. This is a 3-0 round. I had a 30-0 monogram, but it was kind of useless because it wouldn't hold any paint. So that little one is just a little bitty, almost a stippling brush. So that's what I use for most things. Oh, are we having video issues? Yes. So hopefully this will all be nice and clear for the YouTube. If you are experiencing technical difficulties, I don't think it's on our end. I hope not. So we'll figure that out there. So those are the brushes. Oh, tin sulfide. Thank you, tech guy. Is mosaic gold. So those are the brushes I use most often. Some people like filbert or flat brushes, but I learned on round, and that's kind of what sticks with me and my scribing, and they work. So use what works for you. You know, their brushes are. You can spend $70 on a paintbrush, and I guess it's worth it. Like the what is it? Winsor and Newton Series 7, I think, is what the real fancy you know, artists who have money can spend. They're not a cheap brush, and I guess it would be the last paintbrush you'd ever have to buy. But I'm okay with spending, $3 to $5 on a paintbrush every now and then, if it means I get to try a lot. So, play with them and see what you like, and paint with what makes you happy. Because art is love and joy. So I just kind of go around and fill in all the little bits and cracks and things. And the Bristol is sucking up a lot more of the paint. As it dries, like up here, you can see some thin spots. So as it dries, we'll go over with a second layer in some places. Other places, it's going to be hidden with the little gold details we put in the background or the finishing touches. Yes, happy little leaves. We love it. Yeah, and your speed you'll be able to do it quicker. This is over 12 years. My first scroll went out in March of 2008. So I just passed my 12-year Scribiversary in the SCA. So that's kind of crazy to think about. Uh, and I've never actually done, here's the secret of this video here. I've never actually done a Black Hours scroll in this style. I have done one in the style of the Black Hours of Charles the Bold, which I'm probably going to do a second part to this uh, session here, because it's a very different manuscript. That one has an all black background basically, and color, silver and gold, acanthus leaves, and fruit and flowers. It's a fairly limited palette, like this one, um, but you get some different look with once you start adding greens and reds and blues uh, on that. Oh, fabulous. Yeah, I like it, and it's like I said at the beginning, it's nice, it gives a big wow factor when it's shown in court, which is always nice to hear the oohs and the ahs. And it goes together fairly quickly. The sketching and the drawing is the longest part of this. Um, get everything on the paper. And so the non calligraphy pages on this, I'm sure there's a term for it. I'm a bad word keeper. Um, Again, limited color palette for the rest of the book on this. If there are, carpet pages with people and other elements, they use pink and green and like a silvery tan, and that's about it for other colors in this. So goes together quickly. And again, with the shading, which we'll get to when we get into the gold color later, um, you can kind of cheat because your black paper is doing the shading for you in some cases. Oh, I don't do calligraphy much, so I am happy for people that do it. Uh, I will do it if coerced, but I prefer not to. So yay for the calligraphers, bless you. So this again is a later period, 15th century, 1475-ish manuscript from Belgium, Bruges, uh, done in the Flemish style, which has all the acanthus leaves and birds and things. Um, so kind of fun, very flowy. And here's where we can cheat with the drawing. I drew the bird in the wrong spot the first time, but we just paint over the pencil marks and no one will ever know after that. We'll work on the shading in the bird and hide that other one. So that's fun there. I'm kind of being liberal with the paint just to get a nice solid background. It's kind of cloudy on the upper half. We'll get that taken care of again. And now around the acanthus leaves and the more fiddly bits. And we have a bird butt. This would be a fun one. You know, this little bird here you could turn into a pelican. Fabulous pelican scroll. Or anything, really. And I just saw naming collision who is muted and watching the art spread across the universe like quiet magic. I like it. Art is magic with its happy leaves and happy trees. I'm going to paint right over the bird feet. They're just little skinny things. And we can come over after with the gold and fill it right in. Oops. This is the part that takes the time. Filling in the background. So hopefully everyone is having a nice evening. Tomorrow's Friday. Weekend. Maybe we'll have nice weather. I hope. Hopefully the snow will go away. Get back out in the garden. Everybody's going to have wonderful gardens and yards by the time this is all over because we have nowhere else to go. There we go. Getting to the bottom. Big blob of paint on the brush there. I'm just going to put that in the middle and spread it out. Even though it's a slightly thicker paint, the puddle pushing technique that I favor and teach definitely still applies. I'm not touching the paper so much with the brush as I am just sort of using the brush to move the gouache around. Because if we can avoid brush strokes and make the background look like blue velvet, then we can have Elvis paintings everywhere. Anyway, no, was that Elvis? Blue Velvet? That wasn't Elvis. I don't even know. The look I just got from Twig was something very special. There we are. Oh, Blue Suede Shoes was Elvis. Thank you. Blue Velvet was somebody else. They're a guide that identifies the botanicals. Oh, um, well, so a friend of mine, Razia, she is Baroness of Carolingia at the moment. She got her laurel in medieval plants, and she has a compendium of. Her persona is Persian, I think, and she has created a compendium of all the Persian plants and cross-referenced them, and it's really amazing. I don't know that there is an actual guide anywhere. I do know that the late period Mira Calligraphae Monumenta, the model book of calligraphy, which is probably my favorite source, um, it has a combination of real and imagined plants and insects and amphibians and no birds in that one, but creatures. And someone has gone through and um, ID'd what can be ID'd and said, well, this is actually a made up uh, flower here or insect. And the book, The Art of the Pen, there's two of them that focus on that. I think it's the Art of the Pen and Nature Illuminated are two that um, the the page from the manuscript is on one side of the book, and the description of everything that's in it, it's either on the other side or in the back. But you can cross-reference through um, the book. Yes, are dead burbs? Oh, dead burbs and dead frogs. I know in that one. Gross. No dead frogs on scrolls for me. I promise. Um, but yeah, I think that answered at least part of a question. I'll have to look at that link uh, after we're done here, um, and have a peek at that. But it's medieval flowers. They had a lot of the same stuff we do. So a poppy is a poppy, and columbine is columbine, and I know they had different words for different common names for some. Um, but I'm a plant nerd, so I know plants and I love them. And Blue Velvet was Bobby Vinton. Thank you. We'll get our obscure music knowledge in with our obscure plant knowledge. So here I'm just going back over a few spots that I can see the paint sucked in a little bit too much and got a little thin. And we'll wait for that to dry. And it'd be good to start with the gold. So the rest of it is all outlining on this. I got the background in. Yes, Mira Calligraphy Monumenta. It's on, the whole thing is online. I can't remember. I think it's the Getty Museum has it. Um, and you can look through the whole thing. It's glorious. It's this little bitty teeny weeny book. It's not even, it might be like 4 by 5 inches. I don't know what that would be in centimeters, but it's this wee little thing, and the designs in it are just gorgeous. And I love it. All flowers all the time. And so what that one was, it was from Rudolph II, I believe, commissioned it. And it was basically a way to showcase hundreds of different calligraphic hands, and some of them are backwards, and there's some that are like spider writing. You can't even see it or read it, and it's all in Latin, of course. But the variety of different calligraphic hands is fantastic, and there's even some in there that I can do, which is great because it's sort of like handwriting. Love it. So there we have a lovely blue, cerulean blue background, and we'll put some gold outlines on it here shortly once it all dries. So your imitation gold, we won't need much. I need a new tube of it soon. And this one too, we're going to mix with a little less water than usual. Yeah, swirly calligraphy. There we go. Am I missing anything? Oh, and Lisbeth is gardening. Hooray, radish, carrot, beet, and salsify, fabulous. I have not yet planted my peas. It's not Patriots Day, and I always get overexcited and end up planting another round that comes up before the first round. So, yeah, we're gonna wait. I'm gonna try and be patient on the peas. We'll see. Oh, yes, the Grand Hours of Anne de Bretagne is beautiful. Oh, and it has the names. Good. Yeah, I've done, that's Colette's favorite, I think. Fabulous, realistic plants. And that one's interesting. I think it's that one. You can tell that multiple scribes worked on it because the style changes a bit from page to page, or the front of the book is a little different than the back of the book. So that's fun. So there's the gold paint, kind of mixed. It's not as flowy as I like. And with the gold, you want to keep mixing it and mixing it and mixing it as you use it, because it's got mica in it, and the mica tends to settle out. And I'm dropping paintbrushes again. I'll keep the mixing brush there. Two options for different brushes. So these are both 10-0 liners. I don't know if we can see the bristles very well, but one is a low Cornell and one's a Princeton. They're both liners, they're both 10-0, and you can see it's almost 1/8 of an inch difference in the bristle length. Longer bristles hold more paint. Sometimes I find they are more difficult to control. So play with both, see which one you like better. Also, sometimes, even though they're both 10-0, these are pretty close. But one company's 10-0 liner and the next, maybe we need a white background on this. Sometimes they have different ideas of what constitutes enough bristles. These are pretty close in size, but the blue-handled one, the Princeton, might have a few more hairs than the low Cornell. So there's no, a 10-0 in one brand will not necessarily match a 10-0 in the other. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to what number the brush is. If it looks like it has a good point on it, then I'll buy it and I'll use it, and I know what works for what I'm doing. Yeah, the gold paint, I mix all my paints with just water. Distilled is great if you have it. I tend not to use tap water for my tap because we have a softener and it becomes salt water. Not great. Other people will use, I think, Oxgall, but on the gouaches, just water is perfectly adequate. And get an eyedropper, a little pipette if you can, just for consistency. So my background is pretty much dry. We'll start at the top. Load up the little brush here and make it sparkle. So you want to go right at the, oh, that's a little bit thick, it's getting a little weird, but we'll just kind of power through. But you want to go right, you're outlining your dark shapes, basically. And everything gets outlined, and then we'll go through and add some detail. There's a leaf. And again, keep mixing, keep a good amount of paint on the brush so you get both pigment and mica. You get the good gold sparkle. So I painted over my little tendrils. We'll just put those back in so I don't forget them later. And that. And here's where it's helpful. I've got my tablet up next to me with the source on it, so I don't lose track of what I'm supposed to be doing once we get into the shading. This is not the best point on this brush, but we're gonna work with it. So I tend to like a shorter bristle, especially if I'm doing shapes like this, because the longer bristles, I've had them flick and then we have lovely polka dots of paint everywhere, but not where you want them. Here like that, a little blurb. And petals there. And then we'll get the stem, like so. You have good gold paint, I hope, Gwen? And unlike with white paint and white work, the gold is a little bit more forgiving with the starting and the stopping in the middle of a line. White work is always a pain in the neck for me, but outlining everything in gold makes me very happy. And a little bit of hiccup there. So if you look at the extant manuscript, they've done pretty much, as far as I can tell, what we've done here. The background goes in first and then the gold, whatever the gold is. and they may or may not have been super careful about not painting over their guidelines. Because the gold will cover. Okay, then we have little leaves. Yes, the Winsor Newton imitation gold is my preferred for gold paint. Holbein has a couple different flavors of it. They have a pearl gold, which is a lighter gold. They have a brilliant gold, which has kind of a reddish tone to it. The brilliant gold and the Winsor Newton gold are fairly close in color. Finetech or Colorico have a whole bunch of different metallics, and there's white gold and light gold and slightly less light gold and darker gold and coppery gold, and there's lots. So, find the one you like. Depending on what style manuscript you're doing, may call for different golds, like the Hours of Anne of Brittany. I think that's just a straight collect. You use the straight Holbein pearl, or the straight Winsor Newton. So look at your source and try and match as close as you can to the colors of the original, if you're trying to, reproduce the actual manuscript. If whoever you're doing the scroll for really likes purple, do purple. Make it personal. That's where the fun comes in. More fun. That guy in there. Oop. My mix. And we'll get the nice stem there. Kind of clean up where the paintbrush hiccuped. And our other weird little flower bud. The amount of variety of different shapes and fruits and things in this manuscript is fantastic. Later on in the book, they get into some interesting flower shapes, and like I say, the little creatures that get put in is, I don't know where they come up with these things. The medieval monks must have been, I don't know, bored. Or into the sacramental wine. I don't know. All kinds of crazy stuff out there. Yeah, leaves. a stem and more leaves. Getting into the detail work. Now the gold will be used for a little bit of highlight, a little bit of shading as well, once we get everything outlined. And you could, if you were careful, gold paint is great. If you wanted to use mini autumn ink and do a flat gild, you could certainly do that too. You just have to be kind of careful because gold will stick to paint. Gold leaf will often stick to paint. And we may have a special guest on the stream here shortly. Blue the cat has landed in Twig's lap. He's happy that his people are home. He's a good kitty. Has not ended up in a scroll yet. Probably will at some point. Like being painted in a scroll. He hasn't, well, I'm sure there's cat hair mixed in with the paint in quite a few of my scrolls, but not on purpose. He's a good fur baby. Oh, a crowbar. No, don't paint with crowbars. Yeah, order the good paint brushes. Good. Yeah, this is a 10-0, but it's a pretty pointy 10-0. Now that I'm using it more, we're getting control over the paint. And so hopefully we have nice shiny gold lines. Our crazy bird here. I'll give the bird its little head feathers. There we go. Oh yay. Cats have been walking all over our stuff forever. So it is only right that we send out the scrolls with the cats and the paw prints. So did you use your did you use your cat? Did you volunteer them, or did you make a stamp? I don't know if Blue would be patient enough for me to put paint on his paw and smush it on a scroll. But we may try one day. Here we go. Now we're getting into the lower acanthus leaves, growing behind this crazy bird thing. I don't want to forget the bird feet, but we'll get this kind of going first. So the acanthus are pretty much filled in. You just have to remember to leave a blank spot for where the stem, the midrib, goes. Normally you would paint that, but the black hours are an interesting exercise in use of your negative space rather than pigment. Yes, Kitty. Helping with the art. Lovely. Getting involved. So fill in half of the acanthus here. Leave a subtle space in the middle for the midrib on that one. And clean up the edges just a bit. There we go. And now the loop. And this is cheating knot work because it doesn't actually matter what overlaps and what doesn't, and I like that. Knot work is something that doesn't make sense in my brain. I let other people do the early period Celtic. Give me the late period. Well, Molly, we just need to get you some paint. Oh, and here's where we discover that I skipped a piece of blue background. Right there. So we'll go back and fill that in. And try not to paint over the gold. But if we do, we just paint over the blue with more gold, and then we'll have 20 layers of paint, and it'll be great. And I will suck you into all the crafts, Molly, all of them. You don't need free time. Good night, lady. Yeah, that's what's nice about the paint. You go, whoops, I missed it. I'll just go back and fix it later. As long as you remember to fix it, life is good. We've all left things off scrolls. I certainly have. It was only after looking at a picture of one I went, oh, look at that. Completely forgot all the white work on that half of it. Not quite half. A large part, though, which should have been obvious. But you stare at something for long enough and it all starts to look the same. We know how that goes. Get into the final. Then on acanthus, when you paint them, start to see how they all kind of fit together. Because acanthus leaves kind of look like this in real life. They're a wide leaf, kind of like a thistle. And they do actually have that giant midrib, and they twist around each other, not quite like this. Um, but the outside of one is the inside of the other. And when you draw them or paint them, you can just continue one line. And that gives a more realistic curve to your plant. As realistic as a stylized acanthus leaf can be, anyway. Gets the shadows in the right spot. Get that little circle. Do the midrib on this guy, about there. And the other half of the leaves. And this one. Egg. Oh, leaving the queen off. Yes. Oops. But that is a wonderful way and a very period way to fix that. Marginalia is a wonderful thing, and we need to see more of it, I think. We forget letters, and the little mouse gets to run away with it in the margin. And I think it gives the recipient something to giggle at, too. And that means you want them, or they want to put it on their wall and see it. So that's lovely. The acanthus, these don't really have sides. This is a more stylized even than the stylized acanthus. They have a middle, and that's about as far as the concern goes. There's not in this manuscript, there's not a whole lot of shading one side to the other. In the Charles the Bold, you do get a little bit of top and bottom. And looking at other parts of this source here, there are some leaves that the scribe decided will have a top and a bottom, but not many. It's just sort of acanthus leaf. Here it is. Enjoy. Yeah, both sides. Yeah, both sides are gold, and that's it. Yeah, and even in the other manuscript, both sides would be gold, but one side would be slightly less gold than the other, or it would be, the shaded half you would do gold hash mark shading, and then the top half, the light half, would be solid gold or silver, because there were both on that particular manuscript. Elsa, it was lovely to have you. Have a wonderful evening. I miss your voice. I want to hear yours soon. As I lose all my brushes, I'm gonna fill in those two little blue spots I missed. Yeah, Emmeline, I hate doing scrolls when I'm stressed or I'm on a deadline because we miss things and it drives you crazy, and then it's like, well, it is what it is. Maybe not perfect, but neither were the originals. We can hope to improve, but we're all human. All right, so there's the rest of the background all filled in. And we have a bird that needs bird feet and flowers that need some petal details. And then we'll cover the whole background in little gold loops, which is wonderful. Oh, Combat Scribe. Yes. I need my table and my lamp, and I can't do scribal work in the middle of a tent. It just doesn't work. So hurrah to the Combat Scribes. That's a level of brain I don't have very often. I'll put those on. Little squiggles like so. All right, here's where we can refer to the source material and figure out where all the little lines go. But it's basically shading just with one color. This is where your fine line work and your hash shading comes in. That gives you some dimension in the upper flower petals. Like so. All the sparkles. Whew. That is a quick scroll. Well done. 10 minutes before court by the end. Yeah, that's a speedy scribe you are. I love it. A little bit of shading in there, and then we get into the funny dots and lines and patterns on the flower buds. It's like an Easter egg plant. Love it. Oh, hi, Kenrick. Yes, you combat scribe with the best of them. The tiger's cub you did in half an hour was perfect. Or no, that was a gilder. Yeah. Yeah, you ask me to do something, I get to decide what it is if you're given in that short amount of time. This is what I can do. This is what you're getting done. Simple as that. There's your leaf midribs, and we'll get this little round thing here. Go over the leaf again. This guy up there. And this is where having the really pointy brush comes in, because you can just whisk it across the page and get just a fine, fine line of gold down. And that's basically, there's your shading. There's a little bird beak, and Shading there. And again, whisking it across the page, barely touching, gives some interesting effects on the final product. Probably a bit much there. I'm about to be catted. Yep. There. Here's Blue to say hi now again. Good kitty. Stay there. Sometimes he helps, sometimes he gets dumped off my lap. We shall see. Okay. I think that covers all the little shading bits. I'll get rid of that brush and go to this wee little tiny 3-0 with a bristle on it that's about 1/4 of an inch long. And this is perfect for doing the little background details, which are little speckles and little round donuts, and just give you a little bit of interest in the background, so it's not just solid blue. This is solid blue in my lap right now, but you know. Random distribution, it's hard to be random. But the shorter the bristle is, the more forgiving it is as far as doing little circly loops. Longer bristles, as I said earlier, I tend to flick paint everywhere, so having the option of a little bitty thing is nice. Kind of get all that in there, little random dots here and there. And vary your sizes and try not to do it all in a pattern. Hi Audrey, hooray! Out of one meeting and into fun. You made it for the end. Just about there. And I think, oh, a couple dots over here. And I think we have a finished little Black Hours bookmark. Unless somebody sees other things I've missed, like that lovely big open spot in the bottom swirl, but I think we got it. So yeah, rinsing the brushes and there's our palette. A whole lot simpler than a lot of them. 2 colors, and we have a beautiful scroll, or a beautiful bookmark today. And yeah, simple, fairly quick, so shiny. Yes, and bookmarks make great largesse. Yeah, I would love to see if anybody else did this along with me tonight. We've got the Discord channel up, and you can post pictures there. I would love to see what other people did, either tonight or tomorrow or whenever it is you finish. Because it's really cool. We can make art together all the way across the country. It was pretty awesome. So thank you all. Go forth, paint, do the thing, make the art. And we will see you next time.